Hey, everybody, I need your help. Secrets of Powerful Women has been nominated for Best Podcast in the Best of Long Island contest. Please support my mission by going to bestoflongisland.com and voting every day through December 15th, 2025. Vote in the arts and entertainment category and then go to the subcategory for podcasts and then find Secrets of Powerful Women there. It's towards the end. So thank you so much for nominating me and helping me win. You are awesome and keep believing in yourself. Thanks, everybody. This show is sponsored by Powerful Women USA. Sign up to hear about some upcoming women's events. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Jill Conway, and this is Secrets of Powerful Women, a show dedicated to celebrating and supporting strong and successful women and sharing their stories. I am hoping that you will be inspired to pursue your own dreams, reclaim your voice, and discover your strengths. So my guest today is Catherine Canadeo. She is the Executive Wellness Advisor. She is a nationally board certified health and life coach and holistic wellness expert. And she heads her own health and wellness corporation where she teaches and inspires people and businesses on how to live healthier. So Catherine, thank you for being here and welcome to the show.
And thank you, Jill. I'm honored to be here with you today and to explore all the possibilities that we have at our fingertips to really enrich our lives and really empower us on an everyday basis.
All right, Catherine. So let's jump in. So you are passionate about health and wellness. Tell us exactly what you do for your business.
Sure. So on the corporate side, I'm an executive wellness advisor, and it really is my sweet spot to really care for our C-level management teams, our staff, because we as women especially, we wear so many hats throughout the day, running our companies, managing our families, really taking care of everything in between. And it's really essential that we learn how to look at ourselves first. And understand that leadership, it really comes from a place of understanding strategically how to, understand that stress management really is important, the burnout that we all experience, and really is very important for us to embody ourselves as we show up from the minute we leave our house to the minute we show up to work, travel. All of that is essential for us to maintain our state of health because our mindset, how we feel about ourselves, how we show up for work, how we are communicating and relating to other people on a daily basis, whether it's our coworkers, our colleagues, our friends, our families, really impacts, the productivity, our return of investments that we have. And overall, it really sets the tone for success on many levels.
I want to talk about mindset in itself coming up, but were you always interested in health and wellness even as a child? Like, where did this come about?
So I am Greek, first generation. So my parents had a restaurant and it's always been part of our family. The farm to table has been around for thousands of years, even though now it's like a big deal, But at the same time, it's really incredible that as we got older, I realized, especially after having my second daughter, that I had my own digestive issues. I had my own autoimmune, situations. I had the hypothyroidism. I had digestive, celiac, and I thought, wow, what is happening here? And I had a nursing background, and I was working with my doctors at the time, and nothing seemed to work. And my inside voice, our intuition, which we really do need to pay attention to 24/7, our gut brain axis, listening to our gut, really opened up that door for me. And back then, with the Yellow Pages, I found two doctors, Dr. Lynchins and Dr. Dashiff. And they were integrative functional medical doctors from Cornell. And I thought, this is interesting. So I went over, I sat with them. And the first thing he asked me was, what's my story? And I thought, my story, like no other doctor, gastroenterologist, endocrinologist, all people that I've been working with ever asked me what my story is. And I thought that was really an eye-opening moment because our story is so attached to our emotional well-being, the stress, the body keeps score, right, of everything that happens to us from the time that we are little up until our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, right? So it does keep that constant roll of how we are showing up and what is actually happening inside of us. So we sat there, told him my story, and all of a sudden I had a new experience of really understanding the gut brain connection and understanding what stress, inflammation, cortisol, and insulin resistance really does do to us. And then from there, 2 hour storytelling, by the way, unbelievable. And from there, I got to really connect the dots. And I got to understand the root cause of what was really bothering me and what was really coming to the surface as far as ailments and autoimmune issues. And then from there, we did the whole, like clinical, the blood pressure, the vitals, and everything else. And then we got it on IV hydration therapies. We got on to different types of, I was so deficient in so many different vitamins, didn't know. And blood work that he had sent out outside of New York State at the time, this we're talking over 20 years ago, showed all of these different discrepancies that we at that time here in New York did not have that capability to do. And sure enough, with the Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism, I was highly allergic to gluten, eggs, dairy. It was like a cascade, a domino effect. And once we took out all of those triggers, right, that were causing the inflammation, the high cortisol and insulin resistance, within less than 6 months to a year, I was going into full blown remission. I thought, what is this? This is like the holy grail. And I said, wow, this is really incredible. No medications, all supplementation, nutraceuticals, and really understanding how our mind is command post central and really learning how to navigate that narrative, that language, that internal dialogue that we have. And sure enough, after a while, he's like, you know what? You're doing such a great job. How about come and work with us? I was like, yes. So
Oh my goodness.
that's where I got my integrative functional nutrition background, health coaching, life coaching. And it's unfortunate, that we are the richest country in the world, but we're also the sickest country in the world. And it was a real big game changer for me to understand how to take better care of reading the labels on our food, of understanding what really is triggering, what's happened to our food supply. And back then, now almost about 25 years or so, if not more, Monsanto, right? With all the glycophates, the phosphates, the herbicides and pesticides. And our microbiome has really been under attack. Our immune system has been under attack. And not to mention all the endocrine disruptors that we have spoken about many times, with menopause and all of these hormonal imbalances. It really is essential for us to gain our power back. And by empowering women, we really have to take a look at our whole self, not just parts of ourselves. So how are we showing up? What's our mental state? What's our emotional state? What's our physical state? And to me, the greatest is our higher state, our higher power. How are we connecting every day? Where does prayer come in? Where does meditation come in? Where does pressing pause come in? Learning how to regulate those high levels of cortisol that doesn't make us sick.
So let me ask you this. Before you went to that doctor, what were the traditional doctors telling you? What were your symptoms? Just for people listening to be like, I've never heard this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basic symptoms, I had a high risk pregnancy with my second daughter. And all of a sudden, I was having gallbladder attacks throughout the pregnancy. And after that, I had to have a cholecystectomy. And so my gastroenterologist at the time, traditionally would just put me on the Prilosec, all these different types of, medications that were making me actually worse. And I was actually getting weaker and weaker. And we didn't understand what was happening. And so when you look back on it, you realize that we've been exposed to so many toxins and the body can only take so much. So at that point, because pregnancy does take a toll on us, it does rob us a lot of our nutrients and everything like that. So what happened then at that time was that I got so sensitive to the gluten, to the flours, to the pasta, to the breads that we had been eating our whole life, which I thought was completely fine until it wasn't. And all of a sudden now my body was attacking itself, meaning the celiac, the high gluten sensitivity, the IgGAs, the IgGs. We did blood work up and I was highly sensitive. I actually became celiac. So you can become celiac later on in life too. I was almost 39 years old when that happened. And the constant brain fog, the lethargy, the tiredness, the bloating, the hives that were, appearing here and there, eating the wrong types of foods, just really just not feeling like myself at all and not able to function on a daily basis. And that was not like me. I was always a super energizer bunny, just always had a lot of energy, still do now. And it was just the pieces were just not fitting until we did the blood workup. And then we saw, that what's happened to our gluten, unfortunately, and our dairy, everything has been, really genetically modified and it's become Frankenstein food, unfortunately, and our body does have a way of reacting. 76% of our population here in the US is dealing with chronic illness on a daily basis. We have the highest levels of dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. And now they're looking at Alzheimer's as being type 3 diabetes, right? And what's happening with that? Our bodies are just not resting. They're being exposed to too many toxins and the dyes that are in our food, our children, right? The learning disabilities, the autisms, all these things that have been happening. Whereas before it was like 1 in 10,000, now it's like 1 in 10. So all of these things that are happening with us too as women on a daily basis, and then we're expected to run our families, run our corporations, run everything, and run our whole life too. It really does take a toll, and then you understand the symptoms, and the symptoms present themselves, and your body is telling you something. Your body's saying, screaming, pay attention. I'm trying to teach you something. And then you say at that point, instead of this happening to me, it's happening for me. So until this happened to me, right, I would not be in this situation that I'm in now, right? Having my own company for the past 15 years and really helping women across the board, nationally and internationally. Um, it really has transpired an entire transformation from the inside out. And it's really empowering to have the skill sets, the knowledge to really take back your health, to take back your life on your terms, knowing how to do it.
Well, I think what you said there is all incredible. But specifically, I find very interesting because I've been going down this route, as you know, right? And when you go to traditional doctors, and they're wonderful people, right? But they only know what they've been taught. So many or most do not do that extensive blood work.
Right. And so what I love seeing now, and it's been long overdue, is that, and some of my best friends are doctors, and I adore them, and I appreciate and respect their, practice and what they do to bring to us to help us stay healthy as well. But in that scope of practice, they're really taught in silos. Everything is a silo, and nothing touches, in that sense, right?
True. Yeah.
Whereas integrative functional medicine, which has become, much more in demand in the past 20 years or so, has been a real game changer because people are really understanding now that one thing is related to another, that the dots are being connected, and that the root causes are not just band aid fixes. It's not just take another pill. It's not just, okay, you got diabetes, here's your metformin. Why do we have diabetes? What's causing the diabetes? What's causing all of these ailments? The lupus, the autoimmune, the Hashimoto's, the hypothyroidism, hormonal imbalances. What are we exposed to? Why are we not as well as we were in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s, right? You got to look at our soil. Our soil has become very depleted. It's being robbed of all the nutrients. Back then, my parents didn't take all the supplements and nutraceuticals. The soil was healthy. You got your vitamins, your nutrients from the soil. So it's really a game changer that now, even moving forward, for the first time, they're actually going to be introducing nutrition as part of the curriculum going to medical school, because food is medicine and medicine is food. And so when you're giving your body the fuel that it needs to be as, healthy and as vibrant and as, full of life as you need it to be, because we expect a lot of our bodies on a daily basis. From the minute we get up, especially here in America, we're always working, many, many hours. And so it really is important to understand how to fuel our mind, our body, and our spirit every day.
Mm. When you go to these companies that are around the world, and you've worked in some of the biggest names in the corporations. What is their biggest struggle at that point? Like, is it mindset that is affecting their leadership? Is it a whole unhealthy lifestyle that so many leaders have because they put themselves on the back burner?
It's all of the above, Jill, actually, right? Because we're a whole person and we're not showing up in fragmented pieces. So we're not segmented throughout the day that my brain is here, my heart is here, my spirit is here, right? We're showing up as a whole person. So when we are not in alignment, when we are not in a state of homeostasis, which is balance, when we're not learning how to self regulate our emotions and we're in a chronic state of stress, that is where the real issues lie. So when we're constantly coming from a state of depletion instead of state of abundance, mindset is everything. And learning how to breathe right? Learning how to recenter yourself. And I call it dropping anchor every day, because you need to reset, even during meetings, when you're in the car, traveling, whatever it may be, just decompressing your mind. And even if it's just a couple of minutes, just learning how to deeply breathe and calm yourself down and do one thing at a time. I know it's hard for us, especially women. We like to multitask. But even so, staying present and doing one thing at a time, like we are now. I'm not thinking about what I need to do an hour from now. I'm engaged, I'm present, which lowers my blood pressure, lowers my cortisol, lowers my inflammation. And I think that what's happening sometimes, especially in the corporate world and even on a day-to-day basis with the moms at home that running here and there, I mean, that's become a full-time job with, the sports and the theater, and it's all encompassing. Um, you really need to learn how to prioritize your self-care, because your self care and nurturing the soul for your role. We're all CEOs of our body and our life, and really understanding how to cultivate that, mindset is pivotal in learning how to stay healthy intracellularly and also on the outside as well.
That's so difficult, I feel like, for many of us, Catherine, and I'm one of them, because I feel like we've been brought up, and I don't know how you specifically were brought up, but in the culture that we're in, work harder, right, to get ahead. Keep grinding, keep going, and never come up for air. I mean, I feel like, how many things we've seen on social media where it's just like, keep going, work harder, you'll get it. And I think that's kind of the opposite of what we're
It's it
supposed to do.
it really is. It's actually not natural in many ways. And I'm going to go back to the EU for a minute, because the EU really has it down pat for thousands of years. And when you think of our country, when you think of our work ethic, it's only been around a couple of hundred years. And that being said, the EU has it in such a beautiful state of health and wellness that they incorporate life on a daily basis. It's not work until you drop. It's not burnout. It's not lack of sleep. And their measurements of success are completely different than ours are here. Their levels of success are family oriented, making time to sit there and enjoying your meal throughout the day, right? Connection. Here, especially, we need to get back to the connection, right? We saw what happened during COVID, during isolation. We had the highest levels of suicide. We had the highest depression, anxiety. We are human beings and we are meant to be interconnected with each other. And also, their mindset is to relax, to sit down and have a cup of coffee. Everything here in the US is to go, to go, to go. Again, being present, being mindful, having those couple of moments, even if you are at work, even before you're, coming on to a podcast, have that cup of tea. Sit down for 5 minutes. And it's nice, right? Because you're holding it and it's warm and it's nurturing you and it's anchoring, right? Even if it's 5 minutes, checking that email, checking in with someone that you love throughout the day, right? Pressing that text message, hey, how are you? Connecting. Whereas in Europe, they're doing it almost all day long and still working. So, they're still sitting down for their meals. They're still going for their walks. They're still waking up at a reasonable time. And then after work, they always go for a walk, which is what we really should be doing more of here in the US too. It's that blue zone mentality. And it's really healthy aging and longevity. Here in the US, we're so focused on, the bottom line, the return of investment, everything is money driven and everything is very much on the materialistic aspect of it monetarily. I get that. We're in a different mindset here. But at the same time, it's also short circuiting our immune system. It's also compromising our well being, and it's creating much more stress. We have the most stress in the United States, and yet we are the sickest again country in the world. So that level of imbalance really doesn't do us any good if we don't learn how to reevaluate and really understand what is important and how do we prioritize during the day. Because at the end of the day, if what we're working for so hard and making all this money and having this wonderful portfolio, well, when you're 70 years old or 75, 80, and you want to go on that cruise and you can't walk because now you've got diabetes, now you've got cardiovascular disease because you weren't, really paying attention to what you're eating and exercising and your relationships and all of that, right? Your purpose. Well, what did you work so hard for then? Right? Whereas in Europe, it's an everyday occurrence. It's not when I get there, when I'm doing it now.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, what do you say to when you're in the big corporations and how what do you say and how do they react when you're telling them to, you know what, take some time?
Yeah, it takes some time.
Just right.
It's a foreign concept at
Yeah.
times, right?
Sure.
Until they actually start doing it. And no one likes change because we're pretty much all set in our ways. And if it's working so far, we're going to keep doing it. But the beautiful thing about our mind, it has the level of neuroplasticity that we can all really in tune, right? So we can rewire our brain. And what I love teaching my clients the most is taking tiny little baby steps. So get up a half hour earlier, maybe, right? Instead of 7 and being in a constant state of panic. The minute you get up, you got to go. Da, da, da. No, get up a half hour earlier. Do your breathing exercises, do your stretching. Come into you, check in. What's feeling good? What's not? Really understand how you're going to start your day in a state of gratitude, abundance, blessings. Because how you start your day is how you're going to end your day. So if you're waking up with anxiety and you're constantly feeling depleted and you're tired already, well, guess what? It's only going to get much more during the day, right? Without you pressing pause, especially during the day. And so what I teach them is tiny baby steps is really important. If you can change 2 habits during the week, getting up a half hour early, after lunch, going for a walk around your building or going for a walk down your block if you're staying at home, working from the home office, uh, eating dinner a little earlier, right? Going for a walk after dinner. That again decreases your glycemic load by 20%. Uh, Socialization, having purpose, doing things that you love, hobbies, things that fulfill you, bring you joy. It's really important because healthy aging and longevity is preventative. So if you keep that in mind by changing 2 habits, 2 patterns, by the end of your week, you have a new experience. Times that by 4 weeks. You've just done a little lifestyle change here. All of a sudden, now you've got 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. By the end of the year, you've dropped the weight, you're sleeping better, you're feeling more energized, your brain is starting to really build new skill sets for coping with stress. All of a sudden, it becomes part of your life. It's not a foreign concept. It is how you show up. It is what you do for yourself because you make time for yourself. And I always say to my clients, gee, we all have 168 hours during the week, right? You don't have at least 5 to 10 hours a week just for you. You have a problem.
Well, what would you say to people then who say, like the moms out there, say, that sounds great. That sounds great, Catherine, but I can't do it. I can't do it.
Okay.
Well,
All
so
right. So by that mindset, you're setting yourself up for sabotage, right? You are predetermining the outcome. Look at it differently, right? Flip the switch. Well, what would happen if I did get up a half hour earlier? Well, what would happen if I had lunch with a girlfriend today? What would happen if I met somebody for a cup of coffee after work? Well, what would happen if I made a healthier dinner portion, right? What would happen if I did all these things? And what would happen if I actually put my, PTO time in and actually took that vacation with my family? What would happen if all of these things, what would that look like for me? How would I feel? Setting yourself up for success is first mental and then it's physical because your mind and your body have to work synergistically. And if you line yourself up for success and you actually hit those dopamine centers, those oxytocin levels up here, right, that feel good, your body's going to want more of it. Wow, I really did like getting up a half hour early. I actually did like going to bed at 10:30, 11 o'clock. I actually did like sleeping between 10 and 2 and not getting up. That's the most restorative sleep that we can have. That's healing. 70% of our healing occurs during our sleep. All right, now I have more energy. Now you know what? I can go for that walk. You know what? Maybe I can share some of that responsibility with my other partner. Maybe I can carpool with another mom. Maybe I can learn how to reevaluate this and so that it works for me too. So that I'm getting the best benefit of going to the gym, of cutting down my workload, maybe by 1 day, How can I prioritize more of me so that I have more to pour from my cup for everyone else because everyone else is depending on me? How do I take care of me first? How do I for me first?
But yet critics would say, or someone who doesn't like that in your family would say, that's being selfish.
Right. And what I say to that is that self care is not selfish, it's self preservation. If we are not preserving our own fuel, building up our own mitochondria, our own ATP molecules, right? Our own telomeres, which are at the end of our chromosomes, that's longevity. They shorten, we have a shorter lifespan, right? Then how are we being selfish if everyone else around us is depending upon us to maintain the home, to run our business? It's not being selfish. It's actually being loving. It's actually called self care. And it's actually called so many different things other than selfishness. Because when you are looking at yourself and saying, I need to love this first, I need to love me first, you're not being selfish, you're not being self centered, you're not being self absorbed. In this culture, sometimes, okay, we are viewed upon that. Whereas in other cultures around the world, Japan, the Asia, Europe, people sit down without feeling guilt to have that cup of coffee. People sit down and actually take a walk with their friend after work, right? And communicate or pick up the phone or go to a movie or go out to a club, a nice dinner, whatever it might be. Because what does it do? It nourishes our soul. And when we're feeling fulfilled and we're finding joy in everything, it doesn't become so guilt ridden.
I find that so interesting, and that's very true because when people well, the people who are benefiting from your selfishness or your lack of selfishness your lack of selfishness, I should say, the ones who are benefiting from it, they don't want you to change because they're getting the things that you need, right? So, um, before we go to break, I wanna ask this. What do you say to because I've had people say this even on the podcast. They're like, "I don't know what brings me joy. I don't know what hobbies I don't even know what happiness feels like." How would you answer that question?
That is a great question, Jill. So, what I like to say to that is that we tend to lose as we get older because it becomes very distracted with life, marriage, kids, work. We lose our sense of that beautiful childlike mentality, that playfulness. And I refer to my get togethers with my girlfriends as play dates because it's fun, right? Whether we're going out to a painting class, having a glass of wine, whatever it is, right? It's that joy. If you like to be in the kitchen cooking, does that bring you joy? Do you like to go out and work out at the gym? Does that bring you joy? Sitting on the couch, petting your dog, does that bring you joy? These, being with your partner, being with your kids, going on vacation, what brings you joy? Journaling, writing, painting, listening to music, going to a concert. We all have our own source of joyfulness. And when we tap into that, I call it micro moments of happiness all day long. Now, because when you're stepping outside and you hear the birds chirping, you're like, wow, it sounds so beautiful, right? Or you just walk out and the first thing you have is that beautiful sunlight on your face, right? You're like, oh, wow, that feels really good. Or you get into your car and it's your favorite song, micro moments of happiness. Or someone that you haven't heard from in a while calls, wow, so great to hear from you. Micro moments of happiness. Or you're at work and someone does an incredible job on the project and you're giving them all these wonderful compliments, right? It brings you joy to give that person gratitude and being grateful and appreciative. That's joy.
So when you're teaching these steps to corporations, I feel like once their employees learn to do all these, incorporate all these steps, a happier employee, and it sounds so silly, but a happier employee is going to be more productive.
It's so true. And I feel that in the past maybe 10 years or so, really nurturing that soul for the role is become almost essential because what happens here is that the productivity increases. What happens here is that when a person, whether it's personal or professional, feels appreciated, feels heard, that they're being listened to, and that that person, whether it's their boss, their colleague, a friend, a spouse, whatever it may be, a friend, feels supported, the return of investment in their productivity comes back tenfold because they will go the extra mile to stay that extra hour because it's coming from their heart, because it's a sense of pride. And what happens here too, even on a personal level, whether you're saying to your, child or your spouse or your best friend, wow, I really love that meal that you cooked. Or, you know what, I had a great weekend with you. They're going to want to tap into that. And when can we do it again? There's connection. And when we are at work, we're there for 8 hours sometimes a day, right? And they do become part of your family work-life balance, right? So they do know things that are happening with you personally sometimes or professionally. And having that level of constant communication and that level of understanding that we're all in this together to create that project, to create that event coming up, it gives it a sense of purpose, meaning, and it also creates passion because now you're showing your talent. This is how I show up for work. I'm being prideful in my skill set. Let me show you what I can do even better because now I'm being seen. I'm being heard. I'm being appreciated. And that level of care, personal and professional, is what really makes success and happiness every day.
What you're talking about too, which I think is one of the most important thing that people are seeking, is work-life balance. And I feel like sometimes it's almost impossible to do.
Yeah. So my comment on the work-life balance is there is none. You're either working or you're not. And the reason why I say that is because the work-life balance, that concept alone creates more stress. Because now am I working or do I need to call my, daughter and make sure she got home from school? What am I doing? Right? So you're distracted then. You're not being present, fully engaged in that meeting per se. Following up with that client or whatever is going on, getting back to your emails because your mind is somewhere else. So if you can train your brain that when you are at work, and of course, for emergencies, have your phone on, right? For any family member, but training your brain to say, I'm at work. You realize that your cortisol level comes down, your blood pressure comes down because now you are single focused and you are at work. Your productivity increases, you're not as distracted, and you're not as stressed out. Now, flip it. I'm now leaving work. Okay. All of the big meetings have done. Everything that I can possibly do in one day has been done. Now it's the off switch. Now I want to enjoy my family. Now I want to enjoy my friends, my socialization. Now I am present and I don't feel guilty about not returning that email right now. That can wait until I get back to work, unless it's something super important. But learning how to almost like triage your life in that sense, right? Learning how to prioritize and stay in the moment. Stay in your lane throughout the day. It's really important because you decrease the stress all throughout the day like that.
All right, that's where we're going to pause because I feel like, oh, Catherine, this is so good. This is so good. And there's so much more to talk about. So we'll be back with Catherine Canadeo after the commercial break. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Help me get the word out. Share this with your friends because this is so good. Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Conway. Thank you so much for listening and loving the Secrets of Powerful Women podcast. If you could, please like and subscribe to my channel on Spotify or iHeart, Apple Music, Audible, and YouTube. It will help me expand the show and bring you more incredible women who are inspiring you with their stories. I am so grateful for your support, so thank you. Keep listening and share this with your friends. We're changing the world. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. So Catherine Canadeo is with me, and for Catherine, she has touched on so much, in so many important issues about lifestyle, about living longer. I do want to talk about burnout, and I want to talk about cortisol levels. I was just telling you in the break, I have very high cortisol levels, and I'm trying to do stuff to bring it down, but what causes cortisol levels to be so high?
Okay, well, that is a loaded question. So what happens here with cortisol is the first question I'm going to ask you is, how are you sleeping?
Mm,
So
mm,
sleep, and we can go without food or water, for a couple of days, but we cannot go without sleep, not even for 24 hours. So what happens here is that our cortisol levels are really affected by our adrenal glands. And without getting too scientific, you got the hippocampus, you got the pituitary, and you got the adrenals. It's called the HPA axis.
okay.
And what happens here is that we start to get hormonally imbalanced as well. So we start to see this. And actually, I see it in my 20 and 30-year-old clients as well. They've got high cortisol because they are go, 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 go. And as we said before, it's a detriment to ourselves that we don't press pause, that we
Mm,
feel guilty about sitting there and even having a cup of good organic coffee or a nice cup of decaffeinated green tea, because we need to lower the cortisol on many different levels. You really need to know your numbers, right? So your adrenals, talk about burnout. That's why
mm,
you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, because your cortisol levels are high. What happens here is that during the day, that's why you're crashing at between 12 and 3. You're looking for that third cup of coffee, or you're looking for that extra donut or that cookie. Because what's happening here is your ATP molecules, right? Your mitochondria are crashing. Those are the tiny little powerhouses inside of ourselves that are saying, I'm not getting enough sleep. I am constantly stressed out. And your nervous system, the enteric and the central nervous system, they actually came from our gut. So our serotonin is made in our gut. 90% of it is made in our gut. And we have 500 million neurons in our gut. So what you're feeding your gut, you're feeding your brain, you're feeding your nervous system, you're feeding your entire body. But what happens here is that those levels of high cortisol don't get a chance to dysregulate themselves. They stay high. So walking brings it down. Good proteins bring it down. Good vegetables bring it down. I always say to my clients, and this is very, very simple to do, anyone can do this. The peripheral of our supermarket, walk that. The supersize inside of our supermarket never even used to be there 25 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and everything there is processed foods, which
mm,
again spikes our cortisol, spikes our inflammation, spikes our insulin resistance. And when you're inside that in the inner circle of our supermarket, it's beyond processed, it's also genetically modified. It's all Frankenstein food. So
mm,
what happens there is your gut doesn't know what to do with that. It causes high cortisol, it causes inflammation. So I tell my clients, very easy to do. If you can't read 2 to 3 ingredients on the package, put it down. If nature didn't make it, don't take it. If your grandmother didn't make it, don't take it. If your mom didn't make it, don't take it. Because the best way to get back to good health is to eat one ingredient at a time. And what do I mean by that, right? Organic chicken. Chicken, one ingredient. Carrot, one ingredient. Brussels sprouts, one ingredient. And all of a sudden, your plate looks like a beautiful combination of all of the healthiest foods. You're not taking away, you're adding life to your years and years to your life. By just that one simple technique of reading what you're eating, if you can't pronounce it, it's all genetically modified. It is disrupting your ecosystem, your microbiome. It's disrupting your brain. It's causing more stress. And it's disrupting your circadian rhythms. Again, with that, take your phone and put it as far away from your head as possible at night. Those EMFs from our phone, or even if you have a TV in your room, disrupt your circadian rhythm.
mm. Well, Catherine, what do you do, like when you know, like you said, you need to sleep, right? And you're not sleeping. So, is there something you can do? Like you said, put the phone away. I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. But is there something you could do to kind of help you to sleep? I mean,
Absolutely.
and
So
it
you
is running. I know you mentioned walking. I'm sorry to cut you off. Is running beneficial or that's too
So,
much?
so I personally, and this is just my own personal opinion, walking is the most natural form of exercise. We've been doing it for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Aristotle used to say back then, if you're in a bad mood, go for a walk.
Mm.
Back again after 10 minutes, you're in a bad mood, go for another 10-minute walk. Why? You're decreasing your cortisol, your inflammation, you're de-stressing your brain. Your midline in your brain is going back and forth, sending all these wonderful, synapses and dendrites, having a little party up there, de-escalating stress. Walking is essential. Swimming is great. Biking is okay. All of these things that are not high impact. And the older we get, sometimes these, running and everything can actually cause more joint pain and more problems. So to me, the most natural thing to do is to walk, because it's a multi-sensory approach. When you go outside, even and you're walking, you're taking in the air, you're taking in the beach, you're taking in the, forest, the hikes that you're doing, even walking down your block, you're saying hi to your neighbors. It de-stresses you. And it also decreases your glucose levels by 20% after you have dinner or even after lunch. So if you're pre-diabetic, go for that walk. Even a 10, 15-minute walk decreases your glycemic loads by 20%. Now, you're not going to have morning routines. You have to have a nighttime routine too. Try as best as you can to eat between 5:30 and 7:30. And again, if you look at your hand, the middle of your hand here, that is the amount of protein that you should have on your plate. Your fingers here are all of the vegetables, all different color rainbows. And this here is the amount of carbs. So each hand, this is your blueprint right here. And if you close your hand, if you put it on your heart, that is the size of your heart. Put it down here over your stomach, that's the size of your stomach. Now, when your hand expands, right? My hand is fully expanded right now. That is the amount that I can actually eat. Take your hand and put it down on your plate. That is your portion size.
Wow. Oh, for everyone listening and not watching, she's saying her thumb is the size, is the amount of carbs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All of your fingers, so that could be the spinach, the broccoli, the cauliflower, the string beans, all different colors. And your protein, whether that's chicken, beef, all organic, grass-fed, fish, that's the palm of your hand. That's about a good 6 to 8 ounces of good protein. And if you eat that between 5:30 and 7:30, now what you're doing is you're now decompressing. So after that, maybe have that cup of nice chamomile tea or nice cup of decaf green tea, or go for the walk after dinner. Then you come back in, and what I love to recommend to my clients also is maybe 2 to 3 times a week, taking a nice Epsom salt bath.
What does that do?
So we are, all of us, almost all magnesium deficient, right? Just like we are all vitamin D deficient. So Epsom salt, a cup of that with about 7 drops of lavender oil, if you're not allergic to lavender oil, 2 to 3 times a week. Our skin is our largest organ. Magnesium is naturally absorbed when you're taking a bath. Magnesium is Epsom salt, pure magnesium. So it relaxes your muscles. And the lavender really relaxes all senses of you, right? 20-minute soak. Come back out. Towel off, put on your serums, your lotions, whatever. Come back into the bedroom. Take a really good, juicy book. And I don't mean a Kindle, and I don't mean being on your phone again. I'm talking about picking up a book and turning those pages. It's very tactile. Or writing in a journal. That mind, body, hand connection is very cathartic. It's very soothing. And I like to tell my clients also to keep a journal next to their bed and write down what needs their attention. Not what went wrong during the day, what needs your attention. Write it down. Flip the page. What went right today? Write down everything that went right. And you say, well, what could go right? Well, you got up. Something we take advantage of, right? Went to work, got the kids off, got the meeting, everything was, write everything down. And then on the next page, write your intentions for the next morning and your blessings, so that you are programming and rewiring your brain and you're setting yourself up for restorative sleep. Also, what I like to do is teach my clients how to do deep breathing exercises so that you're in a very calm state. And this way now your body's had a chance to digest, which is about 2 to 3 hours now, 4 hours after you've eaten. So your microbiome, your gut's not working overload. Do not have sugar at night. If you're going to have wine, at least have a glass of white or red from Europe or South America, preferably Italian, French, Chile, Portugal, all of those beautiful countries in Europe, because they have less sulfates, less chemicals, less of the preservatives. Californian wines, sorry to say, but they're all pretty much genetically modified and have a lot of preservatives.
Mm.
So it causes a histamine reaction to keep you up. Alcohol can keep you up. But the best thing to do is to just have decaf green tea or even some hot water with lemon and honey is
Mm.
excellent because that detoxifies your body as well. And now what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for regular sleep time. Shut the doors, make it as dark as you can, and lower the temp to a comfortable temp. Remove the phone, do your deep breathing, and you've set yourself up now for great REM. So between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., that is the most restorative amount of sleep. And it actually now also decreases your chances later on of dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, because your brain goes through wash cycles as we're sleeping.
Mhm.
And if we're not getting proper restorative sleep, we're not getting rid of all of the uh, plaque buildup that happens in our brain. So it goes through these wash cycles. And if you don't do that repeatedly, it gets stuck.
Mm. You also, is that part of the burnout? I know I want to talk about what you just said a little bit, but I want to talk about first the burnout because I feel like what is burnout? Let's just say that to people listening. How would you describe it?
So burnout is to me the inability to regulate your emotions. You're in a constant chronic acute state of stress. You're in a constant chronic acute state of survival, whether it's personal or professional. You feel like you have not enough hours in the day. You're not feeling fulfilled with the amount of work or accomplishments or FOMO, not going to every party or whatever that has happened. Burnout happens when you are constantly under attack. And the word attack is a very strong word to use, but that's what the body feels like because there's no restorative reset. And without putting back in the right nutrients, the right, levels of rest, the right forms of exercise, the right forms of connection for relationships throughout the day, unplugging, whether it's just listening to music for 5-10 minutes. When you're in a constant state of go, 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 you are burning yourself out because you are really going into adrenal fatigue. And adrenal fatigue then goes into diabetes potentially, right? Craving all of those sweets because you don't have enough energy. And then what you're doing is you're creating a vicious cycle. Then you can't go to sleep because you've just now had too much caffeine at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon to get that project done. You had that extra couple of cookies. Now you're overloaded on the sugar. And sugar is one of the biggest, it is, if not the number one cause of all of the, major illnesses in our country. So, and it's completely, genetically modified, the sugar that we are exposed to here as well.
Mm.
It's really, very, very dangerous what sugar has done to our society and our culture here in the US. But you constantly feel that need and burnout. You're constantly under the wire. You constantly feel like you're under pressure. And that pressure constantly keeps building up. And something's got to give. And usually it's you becoming so tired and so lethargic. And it really does do a number on your, emotional ability to regulate your state of mind. You can't rest. You become snappy, irritable, moody. You don't become the best version of yourself to your colleagues, to your staff, to your family, to your friends, or to you.
Mm.
So, really understanding how to balance that level of burnout. And it also increases your risk of getting autoimmune diseases like prediabetes, lupus, hypothyroidism,
Mm.
constantly go, go, go. And it's an expectation, a burden that we put on ourselves that is self inflicted. Really learning how to protect your boundaries and learning how to say no and really saying yes to you and keeping that balance is so beneficial on so many different levels.
Mm. So I think this is a perfect segue to you were Greek, as you mentioned, and the Mediterranean lifestyle culture, way of life, really. Um, is so important to you, but is so healthy. And you mentioned when Catherine was a speaker at an event and talking about health and wellness and the benefits of the Mediterranean way of life, and share that with us, Catherine, because I mean, you taught me about olive oil,
Mhm.
and we'll talk about that, which I'm doing my shot of olive oil now,
Right.
right? But, talk about that and how living in that way can prevent or
Mhm.
help with burnout.
Right. So really aligning yourself with your intentions is really important. Understanding what your purpose is, your meaning, and your passion is
Cool.
super, super important because everything that you do comes from that. You're an excellent podcaster, and I really
Oh,
am having so much fun. And I am so
thank
happy
you.
to be here with you. And I cannot thank you enough for having this platform for women to really tap into and empowering us with all this incredible information and education all the time, Jill. You're a godsend. Thank you for that.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Um, but what you're doing here is broadening that scope of understanding how do we have passion, right? So this is part of your passion,
Yeah.
educating, right? And it comes from you. So it's so heartfelt. It's so genuine. We show up as our authentic self.
Mhm.
Well, that's part of the Mediterranean lifestyle, right? Showing up as who you are, doing things that you love. When you do the things that you love, it's not work. Even though I love to work, I'm so excited. I'm curious. I'm always looking to learn. What's my next job going to be like? What's my next client going to be like? What's my next event? Where's my next keynote speaking event? It's a level of fun. It's a level of enjoyment. It's a level of purpose, passion, and it's really tuning into that. So when you have that, when you wake up in the morning and you're so appreciative of the coffee that you're having with, let's say, your spouse or your partner or your kid, whatever, whoever, wow, I'm having a cup of coffee. And what's your day going to be like? And tapping in, right? And then, okay, what are you doing for lunch? Okay, I'm going to be, all of these things start to really enhance your life. So when you're even at work and you're communicating and having that level of reciprocity, that level of understanding that your purpose for being there is to create a beautiful lifestyle, buying that home, going on vacation, all of these things that help us monetarily fill our health account, you know? So that health account is really important because our return of investment is us.
Mm,
What is our biggest asset? We are. Don't become your biggest liability. You know, are you making more deposits than withdrawals? It's the same thing with the Mediterranean mindset. It's a constant check in system, it's a constant state of balance. And when you're doing all of that on a daily basis, it's really a philosophy, it's a mindset. I'm going to have my breakfast and I'm going to go for work. I'm going to have my lunch and I'm going to have a meeting with, XYZ. I'm going to have a planned, dinner. I'm going to go for my walk. I'm going to increase my, level of gardening. I'm going to increase my level of connection with my friends. The longevity aspect is preventative and it's healthy aging. And all throughout Europe, it's constantly connecting, whether it's with family or work or yourself, nature. It's a constant state of being aware. And I always say, too, that your health is a state of mind and your wellness is a state of being, well being, right? Your health is your mind because you're choosing to be healthy. We all have choices, right? Is this going to help me or hurt me?
mhm.
Whatever it may be, right? I'm not going to have that Twinkie. I'm going to have the apple instead. The body knows what to do with the apple. Twinkie is a foreign substance, right? On the shelf for 20 years later, it's not even decomposed, right? So that. But choices, freedom of will, right? When you're living that kind of mindset every day, you're emphasizing balance, connection, rhythm. Our brain cannot live in chaos. And talk about burnout and chaos, right? It gets very intertwined. It's like a constant state of upheaval. Well,
Mhm.
your brain can't function like that 24/7. It needs calm. That's why our brain loves it when we're peaceful, meditating, walking, listening to music, going to a concert. You check out, and there's a whole other neural pathway connection happening that keeps
Mm,
you happy. And happiness is really the ultimate because happiness leads to love and love leads to happiness. And again, that connection to everything around you. It's a multidimensional approach. And that's really what Mediterranean lifestyle is. It's enjoying your food, it's enjoying the human connection. It emphasizes really about balance and wellness. Longevity is all about living longer, healthier.
Mm.
We're all not going to get out of this alive, right? We all have our
Sure.
expiration date at some point, right? But how do we get there? How are we going to have a quality of life? What does that look like for me? Am I going to be able to play with the grandchildren, run around, right? And go on these beautiful long vacations and not need the walker or the cane? What am I investing in? I am my biggest investment. And that's really the Mediterranean lifestyle, but on an everyday basis. Walking, laughing, connecting, mostly loving yourself first so that you can
Mm.
love everybody and everything that you love to do around you second.
Mm. What would you say to someone? Because I had this, I spoke at a high school and someone came up to me after one of the kids and said, how do I find my passion? How do I find it? What is it?
So when we were younger, we already knew it.
Right.
And to really tap into that, you have to kind of be quiet and be still and maybe do a little meditative practice and say, wow, when I want to go to my happy place, what does that look like? So when I do this technique with my clients and I bring them down, I'm also a trained practitioner in psychosomatic therapy, right? Because the emotions are always connected to the so-called trauma. It's not really the trauma, it's the event that happened that distracts us from our joy, from our happiness. So things happen to us, right? All across our life, whether it was in high school, growing up, marriage, divorce, whatever it may be, transition, change jobs, loss of the job, illness, death, all of these things happen to us. And we lose the sight of finding our joy or finding our happiness. We get very
Mm.
tainted. But when we're young, that's all we know is to
Mhm.
be playful, is to be joyful, is to go out and connect with our friends, right? To go play basketball, whatever it may be, right?
Mm.
Now, I ask my clients to just sit with themselves and I ask them to do these really wonderful techniques to just breathe and count back to 20 and go back to their happy place. Most of them are on the beach. Most of them are going for a hike. Most of them are going on a vacation or they had a vacation spot that they loved. Most of them were incredible athletes, but they stopped, you know, practicing maybe running or walking, whatever it might be. Some of them, really love to boat, to fish, to bowl. All of these things that brought them a sense of achievement, happiness, success, singing, playing an instrument.
Mm.
These things that we get so distracted because we feel like we don't have enough time are the things that really ground us and keep us centered. Because everyone's soul has their song. Everyone has that
Mm.
ability, right? To go
Yeah.
back to your soul song. And what does that sound like to you? Where
Mm.
are you? What are you doing? Are you jumping out of a plane? Are you scuba diving? Are you skiing? Or are you playing tennis? Where's your joy? And make time for that. And you'll see how much weight you start to lose, how much better you start to feel, how your hormones start to get regulated again, because you're not constantly staying focused on, oh, I need to lose weight, or I'm not sleeping, or, I'm in a toxic relationship. Well, eating spinach salad's not going to help you there, right? The full program, right? What's happening? So, all these things that kind of bring you joy, make that the center of who you are
Mm.
throughout the day and learn to go back into you because you have the answers. Your soul has the answers. Your intuition has the answers. Your gut brain has the answers. And being silent sometimes is one of the most beautiful things that we can do to listen to ourselves, to tap in and say, oh, that's where my happy place is. It's with this person. Or, it's when I go on this vacation, or I haven't, hung out with my girlfriends in a while, my happy place.
Mm.
Or I can't wait to go see my kids, right? Or I can't wait to, call my husband and say we're going to go out on a date. Whatever it may be, that's your happy place.
Mm.
Do all those things and to tap in because that's your reservoir, that's your tank.
Yeah.
And, how you fill it and refill it is up to you. But finding that, you have to be intentional. Say, that matters to me. That's a priority. That's not on the back burner. And
Right.
it's also amazing when that happens with my clients, they all of a sudden have this glow about them. All of a sudden, the emotion that was attached to the overeating, the compulsion, the depression, the anxiety. Well, we just unpacked it now and we
Mm.
gave it space. So we address it without constantly not addressing it. It gets bigger. So all these things that are bothering you, right? I always say sometimes too, it's not what you're eating, it's what's eating you, right?
Mm-mm.
Why are we craving that salt? Why are we craving the cookie? Why are we craving that piece of cake? What's missing? What are you not addressing? What are you
Mm.
procrastinating or distracting yourself from? And then it just compiles it even more to self-sabotage.
So it's like people have lost their idea of who they are. They've lost themselves.
Yeah, because you know what, I blame a lot of that on social too, Jill,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
because we're too distracted. We're sitting there scrolling our lives away, right? Instead of going outside, instead of getting in the car, maybe driving down to the beach, instead of just connecting with somebody over a cup of coffee for an hour or two and not touching that phone, instead of sitting there and watching a great movie without checking your phone. So we're constantly checking in, you think, with your phone. What you're really doing is checking out.
Oh, oh, Catherine, that should be a T-shirt.
All right? Because when you're
Yeah.
constantly looking at that, you're not really paying attention to you. And
Mm.
you're not really listening to what your body is saying if you're not feeling well, if you're too burnt out. Well, this creates more anxiety. This actually creates more depression. This actually creates social media. It has its good points, but it also has its very negative impact, especially on our younger generation.
Let's talk about part of this, which is what are the lifestyle behaviors? Like you said, it's all finding that time, which is such, some people, I feel like when you talk about meditating, and I love to meditate, people say, oh, that's spiritual woo woo, or whatever they say, which I don't think it is. I think it's just taking time to be silent and go within. But what is there any other lifestyle behavior that people can incorporate? It's nutrition. Like, how important is it? You have to incorporate. It feels like overwhelming for someone maybe listening, saying, "I
Right.
have to eat better. I have to meditate. I have to go for a walk."
Right.
So,
This is a great, great, great question. If you remember nothing more out of this podcast, remember four things: nutrition, movement, connection, and purpose.
oh,
Because those four things are going to align you and keep you in a state of balance. So, as we said earlier, look for one ingredient at a time,
okay.
right? Movement. Don't sit for 2 to 3 hours. Put a timer on your phone. Oh, I haven't walked in 45 minutes. Great. Get up. Walk around the office. Walk around the house. Walk down your block. Whatever you need to do, just walk.
Hmm.
Change gears, right? Your mind needs to just change. It can't be sitting. Sitting is the new smoking. It puts a lot of pressure on our diaphragm, on our backs. Everyone's looking down. So many people now have herniated discs on the back of their neck, physical therapists, right? Next is connection. Whether you're connecting at work, personally, professionally, you need to connect with you first, checking in to make sure that you're in a good place
Mhm.
so that all of that really is fulfilling. We have to find fulfillment in that, checking in. And then purpose. What is the purpose? Why am I here at work? What is the purpose of me calling that friend? What is the purpose of me getting together with my family this weekend? What is the purpose? What's the meaning? And that leads to your passion. That leads to happiness and to love. And all of these things, if we do it every single day, and if you do one thing a day, look at your food. Say, okay, I'm going to look at my pantry right now, and oh my God, all these things in here are horrible. Take a few things out. Replace it with a few healthier things. No seed oils. Seed oils are horrible, right? Gluten, dairy, corn, processed food, and sugar. Get rid of it. You will start to feel immediately healthier. Your brain will become much more clearer. You'll have more energy, less brain fog. Your bloating will start to go away. You'll have more energy to go for that walk. All of these things happen because of just the nutrition alone. And
Mm.
see what your vitamin levels are, right? Because we're all very vitamin D deficient. Vitamin D is not a vitamin, it's a hormone.
Cool.
All of these things, right? So we're all vitamin D deficient because we're spending way too much time inside. We're not outside as much as we should be.
Hmm. Oh,
Right?
Catherine, I can't.
Mhm.
All of this. It's like you just want to. hit the pause button, everybody, and just take notes throughout this entire podcast because you need to do that. I want to ask you what do you eat for dinner? What will you eat tonight?
Okay. So last night I had roasted beets and I had grilled salmon and I had a butternut squash soup.
Oh, fantastic.
Tried to eat around 6:30. Tonight, probably maybe some chicken with roasted potatoes, all organic,
Mhm.
right? With some maybe string beans and carrots. Great. Salad. I like the baby lettuce. I always use extra virgin olive oil, right? EVOO,
Mhm.
because it has the highest level of polyphenol. So I'm always drizzling it on all of my food, pasta as well, gluten free from Italy. So again, most of our foods here have 150,000 ingredients that the CDC and the FDA allow, where they have been banned in the EU.
Mm.
That's why you can go to the EU and eat all the pastas, the pizzas, everything like you're going to the electric chair and never gain a pound. Because it's all natural. There's no such thing as an organic grocery store there. It is all natural.
Mm.
Monsanto was never allowed to plant one seed there, and they don't use glyphosates or pesticides or herbicides in EU.
Oh my goodness. Talk
Okay?
about the olive oil before we go, because so many people, and you see it all over social
Mhm.
media, and you've told me about it personally. When you take a tablespoon or teaspoon of olive oil at night, in the morning, what?
So there's different levels of olive oil, and olive oil is to me the holy grail for anti-aging because it has the highest levels of polyphenol. And polyphenols are basically your life extenders, right? They're all of the antioxidants, all of the incredible minerals, vitamins, everything in the polyphenols. They're so good for you, for your heart, digestive system, your brain. It's one of the healthiest fats that we can actually introduce into our body. Now, I like to start my clients off on a teaspoon early in the morning after you eat your breakfast
Okay.
and one at night. And my clients have just had the most incredible results in transformations. They're sleeping better. They're actually losing weight. Their A1Cs are becoming regulated. All of these things start off with 1 teaspoon in the morning after breakfast and just slowly start to take it until you actually acquire a taste for it. Now,
Mm.
not all olive oils are the same. So when you go to Whole Foods or any of these other places like Trader Joe's, you have to be very careful because a lot of this imitation. So you have to be super, super careful when you're looking at the olive oil and make sure that it's in a dark glass green bottle. And also make sure that it comes from that particular country, that it has no manufacturer in between, because then they add all of the other oils to just, kind of sabotage the olive oil. And they can
Mm.
say that it's, whatever, 100% olive oil, and it's really not.
Mm.
So be very careful of your olive oil, be very selective. And olive oil itself has great anti aging properties all around. And it helps you with your metabolism, it helps you with your brain fog, it helps you with energy, it helps with inflammation, and it's actually a natural analgesic. So if you have any pain, arthritis, different, spasms throughout, olive oil helps to actually really replenish all of that as well.
Wow. So do you take that right before bed or you take that after dinner for the
Right.
evening?
Again, I'm always drizzling
Yeah.
throughout the day. Another
Mhm.
thing that I like to just add too is that making these healthy choices, right? Especially if you have kids and they like their pizzas, they like their pastas. Okay, no problem. And we do too, right? The
Mhm.
best thing you can do is go on Amazon and go on to the food section and order your flour, the 1-to-1 ratios from Italy or Portugal or Greece or France. Get yourself a bread maker at home. Make your bread,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Because when you go there, it's the original grain. It's never been altered.
Hmm.
And you can make your pizza then at home. And it doesn't have bromelain. Bromelain is a neurotoxin. So here in the United States, that's why you can't have just one slice of pizza and still feel bloated after you have your pizza. They put all these additives. So quick story, 50, 60 years ago, the tobacco company bought up all of the major food corporations. And they had their scientists put all these additives into our food. So it's not our fault that we're addicted to the pastas, the pizzas, the breads, the sugars, the cakes, the cookies. It's been manipulated. Whereas when you go to Europe, you can have one piece of cake and not get
Mm,
bloated and not put the weight on. It's different. It's not genetically engineered.
mm.
And the pizza there, you can have a slice of pizza and not get bloated. You can have the pasta. And again, it's portion. It's not a huge thing out to here. It's a nice piece of pasta. But again, the pasta in Italy comes from the original wheat semolina. And it takes 2 to 5 days to dry out each pasta. Whereas here, it's constantly on the rapid mode. Everything is quick, 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 quick. And that increases the histamine, the reaction from the genetically modified wheat here. So that's why when you go, you can eat the pastas in Europe and not have that same reaction.
Oh boy. Oh, all right. One before we go, and I want to have everyone know how to get in touch with you if they want to work with you. But before we go, give one non-negotiable tip for living longer and healthier.
I think the one non-negotiable tip is to listen to yourself. Listen to your intuition. Listen to your gut. Make time for yourself. Like I said before, we all have 168 hours a week. It's a great exercise. Write down how many hours are you working? What's your travel time back and forth? How many times are you socializing? How many times are you XYZing? And at the end of the week, if you don't have 5 hours left for yourself,
Hmm.
then you have to look at it and recalibrate and prioritize those 5 hours for you. Because without that, your well-being, your health is always going to stay in a state of flux. You're always going to be looking for the next quick, fix as far as more coffee, more sugar,
Mm.
burnout, chronic acute stress. You're not learning how to really understand how your body works, decrease your inflammation, decrease the insulin resistance, decrease your cortisol. When you make time for you and you're paying attention to yourself and you're loving yourself from the inside out, then you're becoming happy. Then you're finding your joy. You're finding your passion. You're connecting with people. You're moving and you're paying better attention to what you're putting into your mouth to nourish you, not just physically, emotionally, but spiritually.
So, Catherine, how can people work with you? How can they
Mhm.
reach out to you?
Sure. So you can find me at www.catherinecanadeo.com. That is my website. And there is a calendar there that you can book your appointments. You can also email me at Catherine at catherinecanadeo.com and also set up an appointment with me there as well. And you can
Now,
find me on
I was gonna
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Yes.
And I was gonna say for you also, you're a keynote speaker, you obviously go to these corporations and
Mhm.
businesses to speak about, healthy lifestyles and way of living and to help businesses become more productive. So how can that they can get in hold of you that same way? Anyone who wants to work with you?
Yes. Again, LinkedIn is huge. So I've got most of my clientele from LinkedIn, and I'm very grateful to that. Also, it's a referral base when I'm working with clients on a corporate level, and they see that their leadership and their quality of wellness has really improved all around. They actually refer me then to other clients. I've worked with Hightower, Bank of America, KPMG. I've worked with SHRM recently as one of their keynotes, one of the biggest HR companies in the country. Enzo Biochem Labs. And I love my one-on-one concierge coaching with my clients. And I'm also the health and wellness ambassador for the Hemophilia B Coalition, which is a very near and dear non-for-profit that I also love to work with. And I also work with collaboratively with many physicians here on Long Island. So it's a very, full circle, all around multidimensional approach to healing.
Ah, I love it. All right. So if you want to work with Catherine, please reach out. I think we all need to kind of deep dive into our lifestyle, what makes us sick, what makes us do the things we do, eat the way we eat, and that whole mind body connection is so, so important. So a big, big, big thank you to Catherine Canadeo, really, for coming on the show and talking about all these incredible things. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you also, Jill, for creating this space and for creating this beautiful sisterhood, because that sacredness really helps us to support each other. And it really is amazing when we lift each other up on each other's shoulders, and we are there to be the best versions of each other for each other. And women empowerment to me is a non-negotiable, because we are there. We understand what it takes to show up every day. And it's really a wonderful gift that you keep giving us on a daily basis. And I really, really admire everything that you've done and this platform that you've created, Jill. And thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much, Catherine. And thank you. Thank you for listening to the show, celebrating incredible women like Catherine. I hope you are inspired to pursue your own goals, believe in yourself, and dream bigger. Your voice matters, and your story can help others. I hope you join me next time, and please share this podcast with a friend and follow me on Instagram too. Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. Bye.